Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's edition, I want to talk a little bit about Skjelmose's performance at Flesh Wallone, and I want to talk about the article that I read today in Cycling News with Skjelmose. And of course, I'm going to show you guys the video of how hypothermic Skjelmose was in yesterday's Flesh Wallone. Let me show you the video and then I'll pop right back. All right, you guys seen the video. Skjelmose was absolutely frozen when we're talking about getting off the bike there at Flesh Wallone, the second passage of the Mur de Huy, with about 65 kilometers to go in yesterday's fantastic semi-classic race. Let's talk a little bit about what he was experiencing and why he had experienced it. And I want to address a little bit of the article that I read in Cycling News with Skjelmose, where he said he's on fantastic form. He wants to showcase that fantastic form. He knows he had great legs at Amstel Gold. He knows he had great legs at Flesh Wallone, but he went hypothermic, and of course he had to get off the bike. But when we started looking at the weather forecast at LBL, from some of the comments that I've seen on my webpage, they say the weather is going to be catastrophic. When I was watching Tour of Alps today, they were saying the weather is supposed to be catastrophic for LBL this Sunday. And again, something like we witnessed at Flesh Wallone and maybe worse. I don't think you can get worse than rain and almost frozen weather. I think I'd prefer to have snowflakes coming down. Either they cancel the race or the road would stay dry enough where you'd be able to pass, but you wouldn't get soaked through all your rain jacket and gear where you're frozen. Okay, let's start the race from basically the beginning of Flesh Wallone, and I'm going to carry you guys through into the second pass and then a real brief finishing epic story there from Tom Squinge in yesterday's Flesh Wallone. When we start looking at the race proper and the cameras come on, we see all the riders there up at the podium ceremonies doing their sign-in. Race starts with 140 kilometers to go. Cameras come on. We look at Skjelmose. No shoe covers, no leg warmers. This is a big-time knucklehead move right here, and a lot of the peloton's dressed that way. When we look at Trek riders as a whole, 7 guys, only one guy is wearing leg warmers. That's the old guy, Bach Mollema. He's got leg warmers on. A few other guys got shoe covers on. But when we look at Skjelmose, there's no shoe covers. There's no leg warmers. He's wearing just normal race gloves. Okay, the action starts coming on here at Flesh Wallone with about 110 kilometers to go. Like I told you in yesterday's butterfly effect, it starts raining and it's coming in sideways. We're going to see UAE team Emirates get on the front, Domin Novak, and then of course that's Mark Hirschi there, a past winner here at Flesh Wallone 4 years ago. That's a good thing to keep in mind, that Domin Novak has his past winner here and big-time favorite UAE Team Emirates on his wheel. But we start looking at the crew around him as we see Domin Novak really start throwing down. Look behind Mark Hirschi there, and that's Diego Ulissi, and he's trying to put his gloves on right now at this moment. Now look down at the bottom of the picture, and we'll see where it's showing the temperature. 3 Celsius. Guys, 3 Celsius is like high 30s, low 40s, super low 40s, and the rain's coming down crossways in hail. So Diego Ulissi is probably like, guys, let me get my gloves on. Domin Novak is just throwing down. Mark Hirschi's there. Brandon McNulty's there, near there. But we started looking at the back of the peloton. Off the back of the peloton, that's Almeida. Almeida is one of their big leaders here. One of 4 leaders if you're looking at it on the paper before the race started. But we go back up to the front. Let's look where Skjelmose is. Skjelmose is right there. He's at the front. He decided at this moment he's not going to go back to the car and put gear on, because, of course, UAE Team Emirates are starting to throw down a big-time effort. This is all you can do. He's already made the mistake of not starting with shoe covers. He's made the mistake of not starting with leg warmers. He doesn't have full-length gloves on. That's a big-time mistake, and the teams are starting to throw down with Domin Novak on the front. He has to wait till things slow down. You cannot put on shoe covers and leg warmers while the racing's going hard. In the past, throughout my 25 years of racing, the only time I've been able to stop and put shoe covers and leg warmers on is when I was in the middle of a stage race, where stage racing, gas comes on and off a little bit easier, and when the gas is off, it could stay off longer, where you could have time to possibly jump over, put your shoe covers on, and then get back in the race. But in my day, remember, the car could be in front of you for a lot longer chasing back to the back end of the caravan than they can nowadays. So in my day, we didn't have to worry about that. Nowadays, I can't imagine there's too many races, if any, and certainly not a semi-classic like Flesh Wallone in the rain and miserable conditions where you could pull over and put shoe covers on. But I've never been dropped because I had shoe covers on, and I've always been capable of taking shoe covers off while the race is going full gas. So if I was to heat up, which I don't think it was in the weather forecast here at Flesh Wallone, so I would never imagine that I was taking shoe covers off at any point in time through Flesh Wallone when the temperature was 10 Celsius or thereabouts when the race started. So we're talking about in the high 40s, super low 50s, even for the first half of the race when it was somewhat just cloudy, but some sun was coming through. But I can always take those off. Skjelmose decided not to. We start coming in the Muur de Wie, the first passage. We're about 95 kilometers into the race. As I said, UAE team members, Domin Novak is on there. And with Domin up there going full gas, we're going to see Mark Hirschi pull over with about 300 meters to the top of the first passage here of Muur de Wie. He's pulling over because he's got to go back and get some clothing on. Problem is, his teammates, after the Muur de Wie, they're going to stay on the front. We're going to see Domin Novak there, Brandon McNulty's up there, Diego Ulisses up there, and Finn Fisher-Black is a little bit further back, maybe 10-15 spot back from his teammates up there. But we look at the back of the peloton, that's Mark Hirschi, and that's Ayuso back there having a chat with each other. We're going to see Hirschi start putting his gloves in his mouth, and what he's trying to do is adjust his gloves, either get them on better or get them off completely. He looks like he's trying to actually get them on because he can't take his other hand off the bike right now, and when your hands are wet, it's really hard to get them into the gloves. They just don't slip in like when they're dry. Now, when you got them dry and you make them, and they make the gloves where they zip down further down like this, it's a whole lot easier to get your hands in when they're wet too, because the zipper, if you look at the Castelli gloves, the zippers are going almost all the way down to the fingers nowadays. When I was racing, we didn't have that kind of feature, but nowadays the clothing's so good when you're talking about top quality clothing brands that they put the zipper further down, and then you can get your hand in easier because you don't have to slip through the wrist part here when they're wet. Still going to be complicated, but a lot easier than what we're seeing there, of course, from Mark Hirschi, where he's fighting with his gloves to try to get them on. I'm sure when he looked over and he's talking to Juan Ayuso, he's like, what are our teammates doing at the front? What benefit are we getting right now at this moment having Domin Novak and Diego Ulisses riding full gas in the echelon? When you have an echelon crosswind like we're seeing here at Flesh Wallone, wind's coming from the right to the left. If your teammates, your two leaders back there, Ayuso and Mark Hirschi, are at the back of the peloton, the wind is going to come this way. The draft is here, 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 here. Once you start going back here, the draft is not that good back here because you got no teammates in front of you. They're all in the front driving at full gas. So Mark Hirschi, Juan Ayuso are already suffering at the back, and Almeida's already been sitting out the back here at Flesh Wallone, so they're losing 3 of their leaders. Now, if I told you guys that we had to do a 200-kilometer Flesh Wallone, about 125 miles, and it was perfectly nice weather, Dominic Novak, Diego Ulisses rode the front nice and easy the whole race. They kept everything together. They dropped off at the front of the last right turn with 900 meters to go. Dry, perfect conditions. The race was never exploded. You got 150 riders still in the race, 100 riders left in the race. Your favorite at that moment, no matter how easy the race had gone, would probably be Mark Hirschi. Brandon McNulty, Juan Ayuso, Almeida to help him out going up the climb, and Hirschi wins here at Flesh Wallone. Outright one of the favorites. There's other guys there. I know like Benoit Cosnefroid was perfect for this kind of finish at Flesh Wallone. But like I said, if it had gone easy, if you hadn't exploded the peloton up the first passage over the Muur in the crosswinds and it wasn't raining, if you just rode an easy pace, kept it all together, Mark Hirschi still stands the best odds of winning up Muur de Wie. But when you're up there at the front, driving with 2 teammates, and you got your 2 best leaders back there, and the third one's already been dropped, this is a knucklehead move. They're going to do it anyways. We start looking at Skjelmose. He's always at the front of the peloton in good spot, but the problem is he doesn't have the clothing. If I back you all the way up before the first passage of the Muur de Wie, somewhere around 100 kilometers to go, we'll see Tom Squinch. Tom Squinch is at the back. He's raising his hand. At that moment, what that tells me is that Skjelmose had sent Tom's back to go get him some clothing. Someplace between the first passage and the second passage up the Muur de Wie, we're going to see Skjelmose at the back, and he's going to have a jacket on, but the problem is he's off the back. Mark Hirschi's off the back with him. Diego Ulisses off the back. The whole UAE team members are missing MIA at the front because they just completely blew up. They're no longer at the front, and they're getting laughed at on Pidcock from Christian Vandervelde about how they started all the fighting here, but now they're no longer at the front. That's because it's a knucklehead move. Well, we'll see Mark Hirschi, Diego Ulisses, and we'll see Skjelmose in this group back here as they're trying to close up the gap right before the second passage of Muur de Wie. Now, as they're coming in the Mur de Huy, they're close up with about 1.5 kilometers to go. You'll see the gaps of the two groups coming together. That group in the back there has those favorite riders that I just discussed. We'll see Skjelmose as he's at the back of the peloton now. Looks like he's back in action. Okay, they make the right turn with 900 meters to go. There's Skjelmose at the back of the peloton, but now he's getting gapped and dropping fast. Let's look a little bit further back from Skjelmose. Well, that's Tom Squinge. Tom Squinge is in the car right now. Tom Squinge is going to come up. He's going to pass Skjelmose, who he can't help because Skjelmose is just about ready to drop out of Flesh Wallone here from hypothermic. Once he passes Skjelmose, he's going to go up to Diego Ulisses, who's going to drop out of Flesh Wallone also here on the Mur de Huy. And then Tom Squinge is going to pass Tom Pidcock from Ineos, who we didn't see all day long because Tom Pidcock's not going to finish either. And as he passes Tom Pidcock, there's Diego Ulisses in the picture too. Now Tom Squinge was back getting clothing, was back in the car. I told you what second passage here, Mur de Huy already. And by the top, he's in probably the second or third group. I couldn't find him over the top. But once we got halfway around and we started coming up the other climb here of Arif, we see Tom Squinge is at the front of the peloton already. This is what I mean about making mistakes early in the race. First mistake's the clothing that Skjelmose made. Now he's hyperthermic. He's out of the race. Tom Squinge is the bigger rider, though, so he produces more heat. That's why riders don't always feel the same thing. A lot of times you think, wow, you're sitting right next to me, you must feel the same thing. But if you're 10 pounds more, you produce a little bit more heat. Maybe you have a little more body fat on you. Maybe there's other ways that Tom Squinge stayed warm where Skjelmose didn't. Either way, Skjelmose is out. Tom Squinge has made himself to the front of the peloton. All of UAE team members are out of the race. None of them, not one of the 7, will finish at Flesh Wallone. But guess what? Let me fast forward it all the way to the last time up the Mur de Huy with 900 meters to go. Yep, that's Tom Squinge on the front. Now the guy who wins, Stephen Williams. Let's look at the way he's dressed head to toe fantastically here for an epically bad weather at Flesh Wallone, and he wins here. I have never, throughout my career, ever come to a finish of the race and thought, because I had leg warmers or shoe covers on, that's why I lost the race. Here, I have to tell you many times, I have had shoe covers and leg warmers on like I did 1 year at the Tour of Spain when I won in 2013, and they were all laughing at me in Andorra before we raced and actually started proper in the neutral section. Everybody was laughing at me because I was dressed looking almost identical to Stephen Williams here that won Flesh Wallone. I was getting laughed at, and I looked over to the right of the peloton as I was passing everyone in the neutral zone section. They're laughing at me. I said, you see those clouds up there, guys? Yeah, I'm not overdressed. It started raining at us the first passage of that Andorra stage there in Tour of Spain. I was dressed properly. I finished in the front group with Vincenzo Nibali, and I think I was third on the stage. Maybe some breakaway guys. One stayed off for sure. I don't remember if any other ones did, but I'm pretty certain I finished third that stage with alongside Vincenzo Nibali. It was an epic day. If you're dressed properly, you can be good. Now, why did I want to bring up Skjelmose specifically? Because he's been on fantastic form. We saw him riding at the Basque Country in the race leader's yellow jersey. He lost it the last day, but I think it was done lost more on tactics to Juan Ayuso and UAE team members as a whole than it was just with his form. But he said, his words, he's on fantastic form. He's the lightest he's ever been, which is going to make it colder. And when we get into LBL, it's going to be a miserable weather day is what the forecast is this many days out before LBL. So when we're talking Skjelmose, you have to dress correctly. And you have to dress correctly from the start because you cannot put on arm warmers, you cannot put on leg warmers, and you better have yourself some good gloves that you can change. I'll show you one more picture before we leave Flesh Wallone. It's Thies Benoot with about 55, 60 kilometers to go. Thies Benoot was putting on some gloves back there. And I remember Bob Roll saying, I don't know why he's back there. I don't know if he's going to ever be able to warm up with this late into the race and only another hour of racing to go. You can always warm up if you put on a set of dry gloves. And like we saw at Flesh Wallone, the weather started to change, stopped raining. If you're back there at the car like Thies Benoot was late at Flesh Wallone, putting on a dry pair of gloves, and you can get your hand into them. Whoop, I just dropped that one. And you can get your hand into them easily and quickly. That's the difference between dropping out and not dropping out at Flesh Wallone, and it will be the difference at LBL too because the conditions are the same at every race. When it's chaos, you cannot go back and put clothing on. You need to have it with you. And next time, Skjelmose, dress properly, shoe covers, leg warmers, arm warmers, have some gloves with you, and have your rain jacket in your back pocket if it's going to be conditions like Flesh Wallone. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition of Beyond the Coverage. And Tom Squinge, whew, that was an amazing job of coming from the cars and getting 12th on yesterday's Flesh Will Own. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.